Yo, what it do?
Everything, it's a PC.
RedTails Gaming here, Tyson, back in the cell box again.
Oh.
And I'm back in the cell box again with another commentary. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now, today's topic is going to be about PCs versus consoles. I know there's like a big debate and everything, which one's better.
There's a debate between the PC and the console in the same way that there is a debate between creationists and scientists. I mean, yes, they debate one another, but, I thought we kind of settled this, guys.
And in today of my 1 out of 2 part series, I'm going to tell you.
There's not a part 2, by the way.
So there are going to be 2 episodes. Today's episode, which is episode 1, I will be talking about the disadvantages of PC. And then in next week's episode, I will be talking about the advantages of consoles and why you should pick up one. Now, let's go ahead and hop right on into it. Now, for today's video on the disadvantages of PC, I will be bringing you 4 topics.
Wait, 4 topics?
Topic number 1. I think this is most people's topic of why they do not want to get a PC or why they even can't get a PC is price.
Do you see this? With the letters? This bothers me. Proceed.
So I'm going to go ahead and bring you some facts here.
If I had $1 for every time a console gamer told me he was going to give me some facts about the PC, I would have like $7 or $6. I could go to Sonic.
Like I made in my last video, the average PC, like decent, good gaming PC, normally will bring you around $700 to $900 to play games like GTA, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Fallout, things of that nature, and a pretty nice resolution and frame rate.
No, that's wrong, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Second off, it would not bring you $700 to $900. You would lose that money because you spend it and exchange it for products, goods, services. But before we get into that, you do reference an old video, so here we go. Hooray! Yeah, I'm not gonna watch all those. Let's get back to the $700 to $900 thingy. The claim is that it takes $700 to $900, which is a very generous margin, in order to play games at, what did he say?
And a pretty nice resolution and frame rate.
A pretty nice resolution and frame rate. Well, that's, open to argument, what you consider pretty nice. Hell, I think it varies from game to game. Arma 3 at 60 frames per second, that is totally doable. That is excellent. Call of Duty at 60 frames a second, Also, 1440p is a must for me. It has to be 1440p. Unless it's a very old game, I'm not going to be running it under 1440p. My screen is 24 inches, and I have SLI 980 Ti's. There's no reason for me to be playing on 1080p. Let's go to a golden example, the GTX 970. Now, the prices will change, varying on where you look and where you go, but just looking at Amazon, just at this one point in time tonight, just spontaneously going there and looking, $258. Yes, it is used. However, it is used in very good condition. Item is in original packaging. As you can see, one of my 980 Ti's is used. And, of course, there's no problems with it. And if you do have a problem with it, you can refund it. So I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. I'll buy a used GPU. Absolutely. Now, this one, new, sealed in box, $250. And let's say you can get one for about $275, right? Even at the 2560 by 1600 resolution, which as you all know is far above 1080p, frame rates, maximum settings, high anti-aliasing, above 30 frames a second. But let's say you just want to play at 1080p, which is totally fair enough. Take the same game that runs at 34 frames a second, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. It gets an average of 60.1 with high settings, motion blur and fog enabled, shadows and environment very high, at true 1080p. Yes, the game's a little bit old, but that was based on when this originally came out. How does a 970 fare in a game that just released, Doom? Well, running at true 1080p, ultra quality, these benchmarks by Kotaku are pretty obvious. Lowest FPS 88, average is 104. And while Doom runs at 60 frames per second on the consoles, its quality can't hold a candle to the PC. Now, even if your budget was $600, that's doable by pretty much anyone. If you can spend $400 on a console and $60 on every games and pay for the online services, you got $600. That still leaves you $300 for everything else. And then you will have a PC that will be outperforming consoles for years and years and years to come. And that is just one card. I'm not even going to go into AMD. I just prefer NVIDIA. I'm not going into all the other options. That's just one. That's just one option that leaps to my mind, and I just ran with it. And look where it took us, on a magical adventure of I'm right. Again.
Now, I was actually looking on Steam. I forgot what the official name was, but Steam released like a Steam quality or like service report every year. And for last year, they released a report saying like what games were most downloaded, ratings on games, how games were played, when they were played, what resolution they were played. And one thing I found really interesting about this quality report released by Steam is that over 75% of games downloaded on Steam are played at 1080p resolution.
Citation?
And that kind of like makes me like wonder if PC players always brag about PC being a higher resolution, things of that nature, but over 75% of games that are downloaded through Steam are played at 1080p resolution, which the PS4 and Xbox One outputs, then why are they bragging about quality?
Research is important. Looking at things at face value is not normally the best thing to do, especially when it's about items and information that you're not too familiar with. The Steam survey about resolution can be very misleading if you don't understand the caveats that come along with it. This excellent video by Fringy is a fantastic way to learn about how the survey operates and a lot of the nitty-gritty aspects of that survey, and why just looking at the number straight up doesn't really give you an accurate representation of the entire PC market. Multi-monitor setups, laptops, normal screens, all that stuff. He goes into a good, detailed explanation, and you should check it out. For the sake of this video, though, let's say that you're right here. Let's just go with this simple idea that 75+% of PC gamers are playing at 1080p. Across all games, too. None of this, that game runs at this, and this game runs at that, and that game runs at this, and that game runs at that. There are other metrics besides sheer resolution that can be used to determine the quality of a game. So while you do have resolution up there, absolutely, you also have the other two big contributing factors of what the quality of the game is. You have the graphics settings, which with resolution determines how it looks, but most importantly, since this is a video game, not a movie, you have to experience it, you have to play it, you have to interact with it. So you have the frame rate. The higher the resolution, the better. The higher the frame rate, the better. Graphics settings, well, some of those are a little odd. But let's proceed.
So then I did a little bit of more research, and then I figured out that most of those games were actually played at a higher frame rate than 60 frames a second.
He's on the verge of enlightenment, yes. Go on.
And then I was actually talking to this dude, and he was saying that I am right, as in like the resolution is really not that different when it comes to 1080p on PC and console. But he said the thing is that PC outputs a higher frame rate. So I'm like, okay, fair. So then I did a little bit more research, and most people can't tell the difference.
No, please, no.
Between 60 frames a second and 120 frames a second.
You said you did research. Look, yes, the eye can absolutely tell the difference between 60 and 120. In fact, it's super obvious. So take this one video here by startgrid. This video illustrates excellently and obviously the huge difference between 15, 30, and 60. And remember, you're just watching this. You're not actually controlling it, so it doesn't have anything to do with input lag or anything like that. You can clearly tell the difference between 15, 30, and 60. It looks like 60 and 120 are the same. But that's for a number of reasons. One, because YouTube only outputs a maximum of 60 frames per second, and most monitors are 60 frames per second anyway, so you wouldn't see past that. but there are tests for 144 Hz monitors like mine. The aliens in these spaceships that are moving from left to right across the screen at different frames per second, they're obvious to me. Now, the difference between 72 FPS and 144 FPS, it's obvious to me. Of course, my monitor is 144 Hz. And this video will be played back on YouTube in 60 frames per second, so this test is really just for example purposes, and it shouldn't be used to indicate whether or not you can actually see a frame rate. I promise you, it is a night and day difference. I promise you, it is completely different. It is double the frame rate. Just like when you go from 30 to 60 and it's twice as smooth, going from 60 to 120 is twice as smooth. There is twice less lag. It's not something you just potentially see, whether or not your monitor can handle it. It's something that you have to feel. You just know there's less interference. You know there's less time between your interactions with the mouse and what you see on the screen. You know it, you feel it. That's why I tell people all the time, frame rate is not just something to be seen. It is something to be felt and experienced. I will provide some links in the description for you to peruse as you wish. PC gamers know, especially those of us who play on 120 and 144 Hz monitors, that the difference between 60 and those upper numbers are staggering. I guarantee anybody that if I gave you a video game to play at 144 Hz and then I flipped a switch and it went to 60, you would instantly notice the huge impact that would have on your ability to aim and respond to things that happen in the game. So if you're playing a game and there's a strange drop, if I'm playing Battlefield and it's running at 120 frames a second and I'm walking around and all of a sudden, for some reason, the frame rate drops a lot because something crazy just happened, then I will notice that. It's something that you notice. You feel it as you try to look around and the sensitivity isn't quite what it used to be. The input lag has been increased and there's a delay, albeit very, very small, that wasn't there before. Whenever someone who plays only on console tells you that the human eye can't see past 60, that there's no difference between 60 and 120, it's because they're playing on televisions for the most part, that don't even go above 60 Hz, playing games that don't even go above 60 Hz. They cannot experience more than 60 frames per second like a PC gamer can. So when they say there's no difference, well, quite frankly, what would they know?
Because I was actually watching some test videos when it came to CSGO, Black Ops, GTA, things of that nature.
That's like saying New York City, Adolf Hitler's mustache, Sandra Bullock, the moon, things of that nature. Things of what nature? Anyway, let's move on to part 2.